So a lot of people want to learn Python and they don't know where to start. So in this video, I'm just going to give you a gentle introduction to Python at a high level and hopefully point you in the right direction if you want to get started. Now, Python was always popular, but the recent surge in AI, the level of interest in AI means that Python has really become the top language as the #1 language for developers. So it's become more popular than ever before. And this study is from October 2024 from GitHub, so it's very recent. And so more and more people want to learn this language. But when they get started, they're often a little bit confused on the starting point. And that's because you have to think about Python the right way. And I think the right way to think about Python is that Python really is not a language, it's an ecosystem. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, most languages have a set of standard libraries that come with them. So you have to learn the language and you have to learn a bunch of libraries that make it easy for you to do things in that language. Python is not different from that. But in the case of Python, the libraries have become bigger than the language itself. What do I mean by that? Well, Python plus libraries in a nutshell leads to amazing things, but the libraries are important. So a lot of people, they just get started with Python, they learn a few key terms here and there, and then they find out they can't do really any AI with it or any data analytics with it, and they get frustrated. Some people try to lean straight into libraries without learning the basics of Python. Same result. So really, you have to sort of think about what it is that you want to do with Python before you start learning it, right? So let's take a look at some of the libraries that are available and some of the learning paths that are available. So for example, Python plus Pandas is a library, is the path for data analytics. Similarly, Python plus Matplotlib is going to let you make graphs. In fact, Pandas and Matplotlib, these two libraries, they often go very well together and they're good for data analysts. But if you are into machine learning, classic machine learning, sort of algorithmic based, then scikit-learn is a very good library. And if you learn Python and you learn this, you can do some interesting stuff with that, forecasting and so on. On the other hand, if you want to do deep learning, machine learning, the kind of learning that's happening right now, AI kind of stuff, then Python plus PyTorch is the right way to go. And there are other libraries like Keras and so on. There's a whole bunch of them. There are dozens of these. I'm just giving you a few examples to give you a little flavor of where we are at. Similarly, Python plus stats model, that's another library. This will let you do statistical functions. So you get the picture. In each of these, Python is always there, and then there is at least one library coupled with it. And it's only when you approach them together that you will get to where it is that you want to go. And that's why Python is so popular, right? It's very easy to pick up. The basic language is actually not that difficult. It does have libraries for almost everything. And most importantly, the data analytics and the machine learning, I should say, and AI libraries have become very popular. The major software producers of the world, Google, Meta, they all have libraries in Python that let you do sort of deep learning and so on. And so these libraries have become popular and they have pulled up the language with them. So because we are talking about data analytics, what is our path in all of this? Well, the path is you have to learn basic Python concepts for sure. And then you have to learn two libraries at least, Pandas and Matplotlib. This will let you do things like doing data analysis the way you do it in Excel, but more of that, easier in many ways once you learn the language, and also more sophisticated analysis, more types of analysis. And it'll let you make graphs and visualizations as well. So at minimum, you want to get these two under your belt if you want to do good in data science using Python. But what about these basic Python concepts? What are they and how does one learn them? Because without getting this under your belt, you will not be able to get to this point, right? So you will get there, but you do have to start here. Well, there are different approaches to this. As far as my sort of thinking goes, these are the 7 or 8 basic principles that you have to learn about Python if you really want to make a difference, right? The basic statement or the basic syntax of the language, variables, loops, conditional statements where you let the Python program make a decision. And within that, you will talk about comparison operators and logical operators, how to break down your code into functions. String operations are not absolutely essential, but they are quite vital if you're dealing with data later on. So it's good to learn them. And finally, lists. If you get this far, then you, as far as I'm concerned, will be at the point where you can just jump straight into Pandas and learn some of the other Python concepts as you go along. But this is the bare minimum set that you absolutely must learn. The next question, of course, is how does one learn these basic concepts? And where does one learn them? I suggest these 3 steps. Well, first of all, use Google Colab. Now that's the website. I will just show it to you in a minute, so hang on to that. Get help from generative AI, right? ChatGPT everybody knows about, but there's also Gemini, and Gemini is actually built into Colab. So if you go to this tool, it will set up a Python environment for you. You don't have to install anything on your laptop, because a lot of people sort of struggle with that. And so in the beginning especially, and so just bypass that completely, go to the website, and within the website, you will also have AI to help you. And of course, thirdly, you use tutorials such as this one to learn the basic concepts. So Google.Colab is just a website, not a .com or a .edu. It's just literally colab.google, right? You go there, and you do have to log into your Google account. If you don't have a Google account, you have to create one. But if you have a Google account, as most people do, if you have an Android phone or if you have Gmail, the same account will suffice, right? And with that account, you can click either on Open Colab or a new notebook. I'm going to click on New Notebook. I'm already logged in. And if I do that, it opens up in a new tab and lands me in something that looks like this. Just give it a second to load, and there it is. So immediately, you are now in something called a Python notebook. Now, there's a lot going on here. So let's just break it down one by one, right? So all of this stuff on the left, ignore it. Do not worry about this. Don't worry about any of this stuff as well. This is the name of what you're doing right now. You can rename it later. Don't worry about it. Don't be too concerned about any of this stuff as well. What you're really worrying about is this. This is where you type something, right? So I'm just going to type print hello. And this literally is the first Python program, if you're new, that you can type in. So you can just type it in here. And if you click on play, this play button over here, it'll run this. Now, these are called cells. And you can add more cells with plus code. But right now, let's just run this cell. Now, when I run it, it's going to take a few seconds, but you can see it's connecting to a Python 3 Google Compute Engine backend. It's a long way of saying, look, it's setting up a Python environment for you, so you don't have to do anything. And once it's done, it's just going to run the program, and you're going to get the output right here. So without any setup, without installing anything, you're already doing Python. You can always go back and change this. So if I do this right now and play it again, the new output will come in. So what this allows you to do is to quickly get into Python and start playing around. Of course, if you don't know Python, you don't even know about print, but we'll get there. I just want you to be familiar with the environment so you feel comfortable with it. The other thing that gives you is that it comes with Gemini, which is like ChatGPT, it's less well known. It's basically lets you ask questions right here. So you can say, tell me about Python variables, or you just say, tell me about variables. And if I do that, it's actually going to give me a sort of mini tutorial about variable right here. And so, if you read through this, you can learn it. If this works for you, then perfect. Then what I would suggest is you go here, you go back to the concepts, you take them one by one. We just asked Gemini about variables. Next, you could ask it about loops and so on. So in each case, it'll give you something to read. And more importantly, it'll also give you some sample code. For example, it's giving you some code, and you can just take this code and put it out there, for example, and you have to do it in order. So the first one, you just click this button, and it actually comes into a new code window here. You run it. Nothing happens because there is no print statement. But if you go down and put this in there as well and run that, then it says hello world. Now, even if you don't know any Python, you can kind of start working it out, right? So something called message is being set equal to hello world. And so when we print it, print the message, it prints hello world, right? So this is sort of introduction to variables, and you can play around with it. You can ask questions from Gemini. And just by doing this, if you're really curious and you're willing to sort of read a lot of stuff, just put in the effort, you can learn a fair bit. But of course, it will not be that well organized, and you might get a little confused. And that's where point number 3 comes in, right? So you do want a roadmap, and I think this is as good a roadmap as you can get. Just go through all these concepts one by one. And for each one, go to the Colab, try out a few things, and see where that takes you. Now, I will actually cover some of these concepts myself as well. I do have slides on all these concepts I'm not going to do them in this video because I don't want to make it too long, but in a upcoming video, I will go through these one by one. And then what you would do is you would sort of look at the code here, expected output, then take this code, type it in yourself into Colab, play with it. And of course, I'll talk you through it when I actually do the video, but there are other tutorials available as well. So go right ahead, search in Google and find any tutorials that you're comfortable with, and you will be well on your way. So that's the 1, 2, 3. Use Colab, use generative AI, use Gemini to help, and then use tutorials, and you'll be well on your way to learning these basic concepts and then pandas. Hope this helps, and good luck with your learning.